All right, so now we're going to learn like super basic CSS, right? Okay, so CSS essentially is, if we go back to this W3 school page, you'll see it says HTML. Sure, the next thing CSS. There we go. Okay, CSS. So we just talked about HTML, right? And so when you go to a website, that's what you're seeing is that HTML stuff, right? Here's the deal though. We can change the colors of a page. We can change the way it's kind of laid out, like big text, small text, colored text, background colors, these kinds of things. So CSS is the, like it says, the language for styling web pages. So basically, it's called cascading style sheets. Like a lot of this nomenclature, or whatever you want to call it, when it comes to programming, like we can take the complication out of that. So all we really need to do is say this page that we were just making, the one that says like this heading, this is a paragraph, this is another paragraph. Well, what we can do now is we can change the color of text or the color of the background, etc. I know that it can seem a little daunting or confusing to look at this and go, oh my gosh, I have to learn HTML and CSS and all this other stuff. Don't worry about that. What you want to do is just think, what is my outcome here? What am I trying to do? If you do that, then you'll be able to easier guide yourself along a path to learning what you need to learn. This is extremely important to understand. Programming is a vast, huge thing. I don't want you to get lost in that. And that's what happens to a lot of people who are just starting out, is it can seem really overwhelming. And the thing that's going to keep you from getting overwhelmed is just always going back to your head and going, what am I trying to do here? Don't look at all the craziness. So like this CSS example, we can just bring this right back and apply it. So the body, the H1 and the P, that's what we can deduce from this, right? And then if we look at these little brackets here, these curlies, we can say, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, that kind of holds the information about what we're trying to change, right? So we can see background color, light blue, the H1, the color is going to be white, text align center. And then for the paragraph tag, we wanted to use a special font called Verdana. Now, I don't have this stuff memorized. I never will. It doesn't matter. Why? Because there's resources online that you're going to learn to leverage that you can go to when you're trying to do something. There's no way possible you could remember this stuff. So get over that fact and just think about it in the sense of like, okay, like some of these you'll remember, like color, font family, background color. You'll pick those up over time. But if you don't know how to do them, what's cool is this W3 School site has something called the CSS reference. So if I click that, open up a new tab, go here, you can see it's got like all these things that you can do to edit your CSS or apply new rules to your CSS. See what I'm saying? Sorry, commercial break. So like you apply these rules, these CSS rules to your CSS, and then they will change the way that your web page looks. Got it? So we have HTML and then we have CSS. HTML is just going to be the structure of stuff on a page, right? But then CSS is like the next layer, the way that you want it to visually appear. Got it? Okay, hopefully you're with me. I'm going to show you a couple examples here. And the only reason I'm necessarily going over this is because the way that we're going to learn programming, we're going to use a web browser because it's the most accessible way to do it. Later on, I can teach you other languages and stuff and get more in depth with that. But for right now, I literally want anybody who has a computer and a brain to be able to program. So here we go. Let's go back to this CSS page here, and then you can click try it for yourself. And here's the thing, right? You want to be trying it. You want to be messing around. You want to break things. You want to mess things up. You got to get real comfortable with that. And the reason why you need to do that is so that you can learn. You learn so much faster through failure than you would being careful. So don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and stick some elbows out there. You know what I mean? So let's look at this page here. So it's pretty much the same as the last page. But you can see here that there's a new tag called style. So within that tag, we have our CSS rules. And you can see, just like we talked about before, we have an opening tag and then we have a closing tag. So when we go to a website, the web browser is going to interpret this HTML and it's going to then render this page right here. Okay. So we can look at my first CSS example. That's color white. We can change that to, let's change it to blue. And then click run. Boom, it just changed. Pretty sweet, right? So instead of light blue, we could change it to gray. Click run. Boom, that changed. Now we want to change this paragraph. Click down here, go to font size. Let's change the font size to be 14. And then let's just go ahead and take this color blue here, put that down here. It doesn't have to be all lined up or anything. The important part with CSS is that you add a semicolon at the end of it. If not, it may not render correctly. There's little rules like that in programming that you're just going to have to remember, and that's only going to really stick in your brain through trial and error. Speaking on that, don't get discouraged when you hit a roadblock like that. Thing is, like, when you go down a wrong path, like, the hardest lessons to learn are the ones you'll always remember, right? And the same applies for life. Anyways, so color, let's change that to orange and then click run. Boom. Text is smaller and it's orange. So this is CSS right there. Text align. Let's just remove it and see what happens. I bet it'll show up right here. Check it out, right? Let's see if we can like do both of these in the middle. Let's just experiment. Maybe this will work, maybe it won't, right? Pretty cool, right? So this is what I mean by like play around, experiment, get your hands dirty, just play around with stuff, right? And then if you want to try other things, you can like be like, okay, so font family, Verdana, I don't even know what that is. Let's just go look up this font family over here on the CSS reference that I talked about a couple minutes ago. Let's just paste that in there. Font family, boom. Font family, click it. Look, oh, look at this. We got some stuff here. And it'll give you the definitions and usage and all that. Like pretty much everything you need to know. Not everything, but like enough to know to be dangerous, which is pretty much what we want to be doing, you know? So I think that's enough for our lesson on CSS. I would say you've got plenty to play around with now. But how are you going to play around with it? Like I've just been showing you some examples here using the like built-in kind of interpreter they have on W3 Schools. Well, there are other ones that you can use. More specifically, you could go to so my suggestion for using an online interpreter would be this site, JSBin. It's really straightforward and easy to use. So you have all your HTML right here. You have your JavaScript right here. There's some little tab things up here that you can use. So like you can get CSS, you'll be able to have JavaScript here. Then you'll have like a little console, which this will come in handy soon enough, like when we're actually writing some JavaScript code. We're going to start real basic with that though. But for now, I mean, if you just want to mess around, like you can do some HTML and CSS in here. The reason the CSS is in a different window is because like while we did have this script here, you actually don't need to have it inside of the HTML per se. Don't let that confuse you. Do it whatever way works for you. All I'm saying is like this body right here, we could just do like P hello world, like that. And then we could take a P here, go like this, and do color, blue, semicolon. Yep. So there's that. That's like literally, see, this is like a feedback loop. So you can just mess and play around with this all you want to your heart's content. So we're going to dive deeper and we're going to get our learn on. So thanks for sticking with me. More to come.